Former MrBeast employee Jake the Viking is a fucking idiot. Let me explain. Yes, today we're gonna be talking about this fucker. Yes, the grown man that poses with his tongue out for photos. He's basically the average jock stereotype. He works out. He's a former football player for LSU. And he's absolutely fucking retarded. Now, what brings me to this conclusion, you might ask? He is calling out Chris from MrBeast for being a predator. Which, nothing's wrong with that. Except for the fact he is defending a predator at the same time. Sounds pretty brain dead, am I right? Now, you might be wondering, why would he do such a thing? Well, I think it could be a combination of two things. Let's go back 4 years ago when Jake the Viking made a video explaining why he left MrBeast's team. In this video, he states,
it was pretty much like a kind of a mutual parting. You know, me and MrBeast, or me and Jimmy did not have any type of falling out. There was no argument. There was no bashing. There was none of that. It was very mutual because it was something I was already contemplating.
But as soon as Chris comes out as trans, this is when he decides to go on a MrBeast hate campaign. And this was all before the information about him being a predator. And this causes him to get caught up in lies and bullshit. Didn't you publicly say that you and MrBeast were on good terms and that you missed being on the team until the allegations against Chris came out? And this is where he says nope.
This is my official announcement. You know, I have parted ways with MrBeast and the MrBeast channel. I still consider all them friends. If they ever want to hang out, they have my number. You know, there was no falling out, like I said. But moving forward, it's now time for Jake the Viking takeover.
Now, most of the internet is calling him transphobic. Do I agree with them? I'm not too sure. The timing of when he started hating MrBeast is weird, so I'm open to the idea. But does that mean I actually think he's transphobic? Not necessarily. Now, what reason would he have for defending a predator? Maybe he knows the guy? Who is this mysterious kid toucher? The answer is his own brother-in-law. And what would the MrBeast team and Jake call this man? They would allegedly call him
Delaware. It's like, why do you call him Delaware? I didn't know. Apparently they called him Delaware because he's not allowed to go back to Delaware. That's his nickname?
Wait, why isn't he allowed in Delaware?
Well, there was a known sex offender, registered sex offender, convicted sex offender on the registry and everything who worked there. But that guy, from what I hear, I can't confirm or deny, from what I hear, he's on the registry for doing some not great stuff to some underage people. And they knew that.
Ah, now everything's starting to make sense. And what did Jake the Viking have to say when this shit came out? Here's the truth. Yes, Delaware is my brother-in-law. Yes, he's a registered sex offender. When he was 21, a 16-year-old girl accused him and others of SA when she was 11. Delaware took a plea deal. That's why there was no jail time. But he still had to register. His nickname isn't Delaware because he can't go back to Delaware. He's from Delaware. That was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. He's been back several times. He was hired before I was, and was actually the reason I got hired at MrBeast. Before being hired, Delaware sat down with Jimmy and Sue, Jimmy's mom, and explained to them everything. So yes, Jimmy knew. But again, this incident happened in 2010. Delaware was hired in 2017, 2018. There is no way this man is using the "it happened a long time ago" excuse. Delaware was also let go from the company before I was. Delaware was supposed to be a behind-the-scenes manager, but in a couple of videos, he was asked to partake because we needed people. He was reluctant, especially in the straitjacket video, because of his charges. And that's why he wore a mask. Delaware's charges are set to be dropped this fall. Delaware has been nothing but a good person, an amazing husband to my sister, and the best father to my 2 nieces that I could ever ask for. They want no part in this, and want to just live their lives away from the limelight. I understand why anyone would be upset and frustrated over these allegations, and I do not blame them. Hurting kids in any way is completely unacceptable. But in this case of Delaware, I firmly believe he did nothing wrong, and look forward to the day these charges are dropped. Believing he did nothing wrong and knowing he did nothing wrong are two different things, Jake. And if he's innocent, why don't you give his side of the story? You have no reason not to, everything's now public. And what was the public's reaction to this response? He got absolutely shat on. I mean, he is your brother-in-law, and you're on here grandstanding for him saying you believe he did nothing wrong. And you stood by as he was hired for years to make content for children. That's a good measure for the word support, I'd say. Which he responds with, considering I know the full story and have tried to say it on here, but no one can read apparently. Yes, I believe he did nothing wrong. Because of how easy it is for a girl to cry wolf. Seen it dozens of times in the sports world. And I wasn't hired till after him. Now, Jake, do you actually know the full story? Or do you just know his side of it? Because that's what it seems like. Fellow commentary YouTuber Turkey Tom would also give him shit. Jake the Viking constantly tweeting about how MrBeast knew about Chris Tyson being a creep, only for it to come out that his own brother-in-law, who worked for MrBeast, is a literal sex offender, which Jake knew is so fucking funny. Which Jake responded with, so just because I know someone who did something bad and was convicted means I can't call out others for doing bad? That's a wild take, Tom. First of all, no it's not. He is calling you a fucking hypocrite. And in your original response tweet, you said he didn't do anything wrong, and now you're saying he did something bad? Which one is it? You contradicted yourself.
I feel like it's over for Jake the Viking at this point.
And just like any other drama, Keemstar would hop into this shit show.
I am sorry, but Jake the Viking from the MrBeast videos might be the biggest clown on the internet. This dude has spent months and months and months getting clout, getting attention by speaking up against Chris Tyson and speaking out against MrBeast, by virtue signaling online in fucking tweets every single day that Chris Tyson was a danger to kids. And there's nothing wrong with him speaking out. There's nothing wrong with him taking this position, because clearly he's right. But he's just doing this for fucking clout and attention, because now we find out his brother-in-law that he's defending, right, that worked for MrBeast, is a registered sex offender. Not allegedly. No, he was actually, oh my God, convicted.
And there's not just allegations on his brother-in-law's name. There's allegations on his name, too.
One of my dear friends who I believe I lost, he got injured at MrBeast, and that's because of Viking and Jimmy. When we were doing that Grandfather Mountain video, I was the director on that video. On that shoot, when we all woke up the next day, I had to go into a car with Jimmy and go home with him, and then everybody else had to stay behind and clean up, which left Jake the Viking to do that, and two other people, and my good dear friend who I had lost. And Viking said, fuck that. Let's just throw all of this over the side of the mountain. You know, like littering in a national park. And my good dear friend, who I kept saying was one of the good people over there, said, you're not going to do that. I'm not going to let you do that. And Viking said, watch me. And he did it. And it's kind of impressive to be able to litter over 2 miles worth of litter in one fell swoop. That's very impressive, Viking. But my friend gathered up all the stuff he could, everything he had the capacity to carry, just to make sure there was just that much less litter. And that's a really good thing to do. And even though it still got littered, he carried everything he could down the mountain, and he broke his ankle. And he had to get helicoptered off the mountain.
Conclusion? Jake the Viking is a piece of shit.